When I wake up in the morning and the alarm gives out a warning, I don't think I'll ever make it on time. By the time I grab my books and I give myself a look, I'm at the corner just in time to see the bus fly by. It's alright, 'cause I'm safe by the bell.
Saved by the Bell was developed out of a TV show called Good Morning, Miss Bliss.
It was born, I think, because Brandon Tartikoff's third grade teacher was named Miss Bliss. So it was an idea that he had sort of had a large hand in creating.
He said, get a writer and let's get this thing going. We didn't write the original primetime pilot. That was Sam Barbara.
The original premise of the very first incarnation of Good Morning, Miss Bliss, the primetime pilot for NBC, was, much younger class.
And it basically was Haley Mills as kind of a super teacher, a teacher that most kids would look up to and cherish.
The problem with Haley was she had never gone to school. She had been schooled on a set, Father John Mills, the great. And so she was playing teacher in Indianapolis, in mid-America, playing a school mom that she saw in movies. And there was no relationship with her and the kids. It was a sweet show. And actually that pilot had Brian Austin Green in it.
But, I think for a primetime show, it didn't really have a focus as to whether it was a kid's show or a show for adults. I think it was supposed to be about adults living in a world of teaching children, but there just wasn't a place for it on NBC at the time.
Oh, so you're the famous Miss Bliss. I didn't realize legends were allowed to be so pretty.
Pretty I like. Legend I can live without.
But they started talking to Disney. That's when I wrote the Disney Channel, Miss Bliss.
Mostly the kids were aged up. They became sixth graders at that point. It still was a show about the teachers, but it elevated the storylines for the kids with them being older.
I named most of the people after people I knew. Zach was named after my great friend John DeLorean's son, Zach. Lisa Turtle was a Jewish princess I knew in Great Neck, Long Island. Mr. Belding was my cranky editor, Richard Belding at Universal. Every time I wanted to make a cut, he'd get upset in the editing room.
The casting on Good Morning, Miss Bliss had several of the actors who went on to Saved by the Bell. Mark Paul Gosselaar, Screech, and Lisa.
The character for Lisa was originally not an African-American role. It was for a Jewish-American princess.
But when they brought Locke Voorhees in to see me, just for a meet and greet, I said, have her read. They said, have her read what? I said, have her read Lisa Turtle. They said, but she's not black. And I said, she is now.
And she has this love-hate, the ongoing relationship with Screech. It was always this Rolling Stone theme between me and Screech.
I get it. You two are afraid that if I DJ, I won't be free to dance with you. You got the job, Screech.
I remember writing the first scene with Zach telling Miss Bliss he's late to class because of hall terrorists.
Let me guess. Hall terrorists?
Word travels fast.
And I showed the first scene to my daughter, who was a year younger than Mark Paul. I said, what do you think? She said, I'm in love with Zach.
Now, Mr. Belding, how well do you know the defendant?
Not very well.
Would you say that because he's never been sent to your office for disciplinary action?
That's correct.
You usually remember the troublemakers.
Exactly, like you, Zach.
And so there was Zach and Screech and Lisa and Mr. Belding were in Miss Bliss.
What Disney was excited about initially is they wanted us to shoot the show in Orlando at the park, which meant we would have been an attraction. We all kind of panicked a little bit about that, and the plan then became, well, let's do the first 13 in Los Angeles, and then if we do more after that, we would go to Orlando and we would become, a ride.
And Disney didn't want to go forward, which was fine. This was going to be in Orlando, and there was no way with 2 young children I was going to Orlando to shoot 67 more episodes of Miss Bliss, okay?
But Brandon Tartikoff liked something about it. He liked the idea of the kids, and he says, why don't we kind of do a version of it, but focus just on the kids?
Did you hear something? I thought I did.
And so the key was to add romance. You couldn't do that in a junior high atmosphere, so it had to be first day of high school. Everyone remembers their first day. First crush, first blush, first love, first heartbreak. And that's what the show was based on.
And Brandon said, I really want a title that evokes high school. We're doing high school, we're focusing just on the kids. And Brandon said, this isn't it, but a title like When the Bell Rings. And then Tom and Peter started fooling around with that and came up with Saved by the Bell. And Brandon said, I like that. Peter wasn't so sure about it at the time. And they went through marketing, and marketing really liked it. So that's how we got the Saved by the Bell title. And it really evokes high school, and it evokes mischief and trouble.
We retooled the show and moved it, of course, to Pacific Palisades. We couldn't use that because you have to worry about the name. So we made up Bayside High in Palisades, California.
It was an interesting time because there was not television for teenagers. This was before 90210. This was before anyone was looking to cast teenagers in lead roles. We were graced with an immense pool of talent to bring onto the show because nobody else was concerned about that age of an actor.
Some of the kids who were with Miss Bliss, Screech, Lisa, and Zach, we decided to keep on to Saved by the Bell because they had interesting character traits and personalities that could work for us, we felt.
All right. Look, I've got nothing against Rhonda Robustelli, but I do have this policy against dating anyone who holds a school shot put record.
Peter always would say, all the kids are great, but Zach is the center of the show.
He could stop time, and he would talk to the camera even if he didn't stop time. He would break the fourth wall, and he would talk.
And Peter had liked Ferris Bueller a lot, as I remember. And Ferris Bueller, Matthew Broderick talks to the camera. Also, you feel like you know him better, like his is my friend, he's talking to me, a confidant. And Mark Paul was great at it.
Anyone who thinks what I did to Screech was mean, raise your hand.
One of the things they liked most about the show was that the most popular kid in the school, Zach, had the biggest geek as his best friend. Even though he manipulated him and he used him in all different ways for his schemes, that was something the kids really liked.
Look at this face. Tell me what you see. Proof that there's life on other planets.
And it worked some in the younger show of Miss Bliss, but there wasn't enough of it. But as a year older, as we do it, we could do more things. He would be a little more mature. If that's the right description, I'm not sure. Let's say a little more able to do more sophisticated, crazy things.
Screech, what are you doing here?
Don't talk. Let's go where the music takes us.
Although I didn't realize Screech was only 11, so I misread his birth certificate, Dustin. The first day of shooting, I said to Mark Paul, what's with Dustin? He said, well, he's only 11. I said, if he's only 11, I never would have hired him.
What's for dinner, Mom?
Look, you better sit down. I think you were hit by lightning.
And Mr. Belding would have a slightly bigger role, and sometimes quite bigger role, as a principal who would try to relate to the kids often as human beings rather than just for detention.
This may come as a surprise to you, but when I was your age, I wasn't, well, you know, the hunk I am now.
One of the things Brandon Tartikoff said to me, he wanted the relationship between Zach and Mr. Belding to be like Bilko and the Colonel from the great Phil Silver show of the 60s. If it was even the 60s. He used to play him. Your worship, your highness, you're my leader. I mean, Mark Paul must have said 70 times, oh, but you're my leader.
Mr. Belding.
Morris, what are you doing in my office?
Oh, Mr. Belding, thank goodness you're here. I need your help. My life is being threatened by one of your students.
Just one? You're losing your touch.
The goal was to try and make a new mix work, taking 3 parts of the old mix in less developed form, bringing those characters over and fleshing them out more.
So I wanted to balance that with a love interest. If people don't remember the first episode, it didn't play as the first episode, was Zach wakes up and he starts to talk to the camera, and he takes about, this is his year. This is the first time ever the girl he's been in love with ever doesn't have a boyfriend. And he takes out a clicker, a remote control, and out of the ceiling comes a huge cardboard picture of Kelly Kapowski holding a volleyball.
This is the year that I make my move.
She had to be pretty, you know, but there are a lot of pretty actresses and actors. But when Tiffany Amber Thiessen came in and read, she read extraordinarily well, and Peter had known about her, but she was such a nice, ebullient girl, like very positive. She seemed that way, and her mother seemed that way.
Well, I just want you to know that I'm keeping my calendar clear, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. You want me to ask you.
You could do worse.
She could do better.
It couldn't be easy for Zach. I needed a rival. And we had a character named A.C. Slater, who was an Army brat.
Someone who would come in just as confident as Zach, but maybe a little different orientation, maybe a little more streetwise, a little smoother, good looking, a little more physical.
And we were looking at all these guys like Travoltas and people like that. And one night, I just didn't like what we were seeing. I said, where is it written that Slater has to be Anglo? I want to see African Americans, I want to see Latinos, I want to see Asians, anyone you want.
Lockers, the key to my plan. Now, Kelly was assigned this locker, which means the one next to it will soon be mine. Hi, you're new here. I'm Zach Morris.
And I'm Roger Rabbit, so what?
The casting person had Mario Lopez come in. He had been a wrestler, you know, in school, could dance well, was very self-assured, and likable. If Zach wanted to do some kind of a prank in the school or play a trick or a series of tricks, that Slater would get involved in some way and either try to screw it up or help along. So eventually they became more like allies, but initially they were rivals, and that really crystallized all the different points of view.
Kelly, will you go to the sweetheart dance with me?
I think it's time for a heart transplant.
And then I wanted a empowered female. And I didn't understand how empowered Jessie was at the time, but she was a feminist. At a time there were no feminists on television.
Jessie was a character who would take life very seriously. She was serious about school, wanted to do the very best, get A's on every test. So that was an interesting character that really didn't have much of that in any one person on Good Morning, Miss Bliss.
Why is getting an A so important to you? It's not important. All right, it is. I know it shouldn't be, but I just can't help myself.
When we're reading parts for Jessie, which would be what eventually became Elizabeth Berkley's role, she originally read for Kelly. And we just thought Tiffany seemed to be Kelly. And Elizabeth read well for Kelly, but she didn't seem to be who that person was. And Peter said, why don't we bring her back for Jessie and let her read Jessie's part? So she studied those sides, read the part, snap, perfect, great instinct.
To me, the most amazing and important one element is always the cast. I mean, we thought we were good writers and good producers and all that, but the cast was magic.
The writing of any television show and Saved by the Bell was set up like any sitcom was run. Starts way before we shoot the episode, and part of that process is the writers just sitting in a room and breaking the stories and coming up with short outlines and pitching them to the network and getting those approved, and then scripts getting written.
We had to write 6 episodes that could show all the relationships The important one was Zach and Kelly, his pursuit of Kelly. And another one was Slater and Zach and how that rivalry would unfold.
You give me your locker, and I'll give you a genuine hall pass with the principal's signature.
That ain't Belding's signature. This is Belding's signature.
And I remember Peter saying early on, we're going to take their problems seriously. No one's going to say, you know, oh, it hurts now, but when you grow up, it won't hurt as bad. Someday you'll look back at this and laugh. We're going to take this seriously. If this a guy has a girlfriend break up with him, that really hurts. It doesn't do any good to say it won't hurt 20 years from now.
Come on, talk to me, Screech.
Why can't I meet someone who will give me a chance? Somebody who will ignore my stupid hair and my different colored socks and see the real me.
And as the leader of the room, I tried to get everybody involved so that any story or key elements of any story, every writer had to agree. If they didn't, along the way, they'd voice the objection, we take time, we see if maybe there's a flaw, maybe that objection can lead to a better idea.
Tom always encouraged me on story. I'd never been in a room before. In the very first episode, there's an O. Henry short story where a homeless person wants to get thrown into jail just to have a warm place to go on Christmas Eve. And finally he realizes, no, there's a good life out here, and I'm going to stay outside, and he gets arrested and thrown in jail. So we did the same thing with detention, where Kelly gets thrown into detention, and Slater and Zach are fighting with each other to try to get into detention.
Look what you've done. Okay, mister, you've pushed me too far. I hope you'll be very happy in detention.
And then at the end of it, Kelly gets out of detention, and Slater and Zach are stuck in detention. And that was the first episode.
You know, all of our scripts were read by a consultant to make sure we met certain levels of requirements in terms of either a lesson has been learned or we've instructed on a topic. I think that's why quite often, no matter what Zach did during the episode, he always realized it was wrong at the end.
So after all this, it's you and me?
Ain't love grand?
That was, you know, a latent part of our stories, but that was a requirement. And that was born out of the concern of NBC to make sure that the local stations would air the show.
Got here as soon as I could. What's going on?
Lisa's running away. The store wouldn't let her return her new clothes.
Oh. Oh, Lisa, running away isn't the answer.
I wrote one episode of the first 6 where I called it the Lisa card, where her mother gave Lisa a credit card and she just went crazy, and she got the bill before the mother saw it because she was waiting for the bill. And what is she going to do when the mother sees it? She has to pay her back. That's the least she can do to get out of this fix.
Why don't you try to earn the money? Earn money? What?
This sounds like a job for Zach Man.
So Zach came up with an idea to bring all of Lisa's old clothes into the school and sell them between classes without Belding or any of the teachers knowing about it.
All right, everybody, the Lisa special sale is about to begin.
Everything would be put in various lockers. The lockers could open automatically that Zach could do. We didn't explain how, it just happened. So she could sell it and get hundreds of dollars from all of her old clothes to pay back her mother, you know. So that was really the first time where Zach teamed up with some of the others to help a friend.
Because we had a pretty restrictive budget on Saved by the Bell, you know, my involvement would be to sort of like participate through that process in terms of, can we shoot these episodes? Is this a scene that we can figure out how to do or afford to do, or will we have time to do it with our, you know, with our schedule? And so that became sort of a nice sort of symphony between myself and the writers.
And it got funnier, and it was funny, and there was some real feeling among the kids, you know, that was unexpected, you know, that it didn't happen much in the Miss Bliss show, just by the nature of what it was.
It's a bee, Jesse. Oh gosh, we better take her to the nurse.
We talked a lot about design and tone of Saved by the Bell when it was going on to Saturday morning NBC. We were living in an environment of cartoons. We didn't want to be a cartoon, but we also felt like there had to be some sort of liveliness to the look of the show and the feel of it.
We wanted bright, flashy colors. We're competing with cartoons. And you know, those Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, Warner Brothers cartoons were beautiful, beautifully designed and really fast paced.
We knew that that meant shorter, faster scenes, more music.
The opening titles were Sneakers Are Flying By and skateboards and things like that. Those were things we talked about and Peter kind of led the charge on that to give it a very bright, happy look.
The main title, a wonderful woman named Penelope, designed that main title, and she showed it to us, and we thought, that seems good, let's go with that. The song and all the music for Belle, is the genius of Scott Gale.
Look, I suggest some stress releasing activity.
Like what?
Come on. Come on.
Zach, we are preparing for a midterm, not a prom.
A lot of thought and talking, discussion went into what would each kid have in their room to say who they are. Screech likes science and weird stuff and bugs and all kinds of crazy things, so he would have that. Lisa would be more oriented towards singers and style and who's on the latest cover of the Teen magazine this week, those posters, Zach would be more cool, some sports stuff, he would like that.
We talked about a cafeteria or a hangout, a restaurant like Arnold's and Happy Days. I know Peter told the set designer, Ken Johnson, I want a hipper Arnold's for the look of the Max. And we just thought the place to go to after school. Again, we're trying to have kids watch it and say, either when I go to high school I want to do that, or kids in high school turn out a big audience. Yeah, I have a place like that.
They kind of come up with the Max based on a Chicago restaurant called Ed DeBevick's, which was this really fun 50s cafe. There was one in Beverly Hills, there was one in Chicago. It was a franchise of a few of them. And the waiters would dress up as nerdy waiters or big poofy hair, and they'd come down and sit at your table and take your order.
And then we thought, who should run it? And I remember the original writers did a lot of talks back and forth about, one time it was going to be a Katharine Hepburn kind of figure. It wasn't always going to be Max.
They had looked at a lot of people to play this part of Max. I think they really weren't 100% sure what they wanted. I walked in with a tuxedo jacket and an apron, my glasses and my hair all spiked up, which was kind of what I was doing in my magic act anyway, minus the apron. And I went in and it seemed to be the kind of character that they wanted.
Everybody, attention please.
No. I just got a telegram.
And Alonzo was really funny. He had a really offbeat, we're up against cartoons. He looked like a cartoon character, with the hair and the glasses. And he was a really good magician and a nice guy.
Food's here. Compliments of my new magic serving cart.
Max had a hidden secret of surprises. Not only was he just this cool diner thing, but you never knew when a rabbit might pop out of his coat or a dove would appear on his shoulder. And I think when they saw that element, it brought in another layer that spoke to a younger group of kids that would be watching the show, and that kind of targeted that area, and I think it was fun for the teenagers to watch. So yeah, the magic actually kind of worked out to be a fun surprise.
The cast was young and the stories were about teenagers, but the people who worked on it had been making television shows for years. Don Barnhart, the director, came in with a wealth of experience and a very seasoned career.
Kids loved him, he loved the kids. He was very positive, and he could finish on time.
He came in and he knew exactly what he wanted to shoot, how he wanted to shoot it. That was also a security blanket for the cast. That gave them the opportunity to just think about what they had to worry about in their performances, knowing that there was a support system in place of how we shot the show. Don just had a great spirit about him and brought levity to the stage, but asked for hard work, and the cast was up for that.
Come in.
Mr. Slater?
It's Major Slater. You must be Minor Morris.
Well, yes, Major, I'm a minor.
We shot Good Morning Miss Bliss at the main NBC Burbank lot, stage 9. We shot much of Saved by the Bell on the same stage.
All the sets were at NBC at the time, and they were all lined up in a row. So at the very end was the classroom, and then there was Mr. Belding's office, and then next to Mr. Belding's office was the biggest set of all of them, the Max.
You know, you're doing a show with children. There's certain hour restrictions. There's school, of course. The cast was doing 3 hours of school a day, and then only allowed so many work hours in a day on top of that.
It was 5 days to make one episode. The first day would be the table reading, and then the kids would go into school.
And after lunch, the cast, the kids, would start to work with the director on the stage, in the set, holding scripts.
While we're waiting for a rewrite, so we're doing a rewrite upstairs on Mondays, and we're getting a new script for Tuesday.
Tuesday at 5 o'clock, we had to run through scripts in hand. The network was allowed came to that one. And they were okay on Tuesday, pretty good. And we then did a big rewrite Tuesday night.
And then Wednesday would be a time when we would see what they rehearsed on its feet.
Thursday, all the extras came in. Now remember, we had to have multiple extras, because you can't have a school hallway with 6 kids in it. So we had about 25 extras.
Thursday we would camera block, you know, so the whole crew is in. That's the first time we see the show on camera. If there are any sort of elements we need to shoot ahead of time that just weren't feasible to do in front of an audience, whether it's a special effect or maybe something with an animal or a baby that is not safe to do in front of an audience, we would do that.
The next day, we shot the show backwards, shot the whole show without the audience, starting with the last scene.
Just to have it in the can in case like something were to happen, because we could only go to a certain time with the cast. So if the power cut out or there was a flood or, you know, someone got sick or something, we knew before the audience came in, you know, we had the show and we could put it together.
And at the dinner, the whole concept was like a team getting ready for a football game. It was almost like Friday Night Lights, except it was Saved by the Bell in front of an audience.
Recruitment of the audience changes as a show gets more popular. At first, you're reaching out to groups or special interest groups through an audience service company that has contacts in that area. But pretty quickly with Saved by the Bell, they were getting the calls from groups that wanted to come. And it was great for us. I mean, you feel that energy.
Are you looking for something?
No, babe, I found it.
When I would bring them out, and ending with the place was nuts, and I would do that for a reason. I'd then go back and say, it's a great audience. You gotta wait, you gotta hold for the laugh.
It's electric, it's learning the two-step or any other dance. It's a partner and it's an exchange. It's not only your relationship with the audience or the camera, it's about playing the field to where we master and deliver.
They never, ever missed. They knocked it out of the park every single Friday night.
And it was just always this magic moment that I think we all spent time and mastered on television. We just had this great chemistry and people really picked it up.
It was an amazing quest of everyone who worked on the show. It was like, we're making a full-fledged sitcom here. There's no reason that, you know, we should be giving anything less than if we were next door working on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I come to Brandon's office one day and he's screaming on the phone, if I listened to you, I wouldn't have put on Cheers. I wouldn't have. And he's screaming, I wouldn't put on Family Ties. And he gets to the phone. I said, who are you screaming at? He said, research. They're predicting doom for Saved by the Bell.
We had a new kind of Saturday morning show. We weren't doing cartoons. We were doing live action in front of an audience with kids, doing comedy, shot like a nighttime comedy with 4 cameras.
And the critics hated us, everyone hated us. LA Times said too, they felt sorry after seeing the first episode. They felt sorry for Saturday morning.
All right, maybe the first day didn't turn out as I planned. But hey, I'm just warming up.
There was a little bit of a risk, you know, even that the local stations would air it because it was so outside of, you know, the norm of what they thought children would watch on a Saturday morning.
Peter was worried because he had the deal. He was the executive producer. If it wasn't picked up, then he wouldn't have that show, and it's a show that he had a lot of feeling for.
We did those 7 episodes, and we had a wrap party afterwards. They said, that's it. The show's been canceled. 7 episodes, we're done. So we had our wrap party, and that was it.
All of a sudden, after about 2-3 weeks, I'm called to Brandon's office. I go across the lot from Stage 9, and they're the research guys who had predicted doom, right? And they got these spreadsheets, and they said, you've hit an entirely new demographic. And I said, what do you mean? We have more teen-age girls watching Saved by the Bell than The Cosby Show has in prime time, which is the #1 show in television. So all of a sudden, we had this demographic of 12 to 17, which had never been measured. It was 2 to 6, 7 to 14, 18 to 49, 51 to whatever. There was no measurement. And all of a sudden, they're looking at these numbers, and we're getting half of every teen girl watching television in the United States.
A few weeks later, our agents called us and said they've just ordered, 21 more shows. I thought the show was canceled. So we went back in, we did 21 more shows.
Every teen magazine were on our set. And if we didn't get the cover, they couldn't come. We had a cover every single week. And remember, there was no internet. Now the mail started to pour in. Thousands of letters a week, maybe 10, 15,000. Can you imagine if we had the internet?
After we did 7, we got to pick up for 13 more. So Peter said to me, well, what did you care about most in high school? I said, zits, pimples. I'm so worried about them. What are the girls going to think? And so Peter said, let's do a show about pimples. So I said, well, how about Screech invents a cure for pimples? And it works at first. And Peter said, yeah, we'll do Act 1. Zach says we're going to make $1 million. Act 2, it fails. Act 3, they get out of it.
Screech, tell me you're joking. My whole future's riding on your face.
Fasten your seatbelt. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
And then he said, what else? And I said, I remember I had a crush on the teacher. Maybe we could do the 3 guys having a crush on the teacher. So Peter Engel said, I want to keep Zach and Slater going after Kelly. Why don't we make it the 3 girls having a crush on the teacher?
All right, why don't you tell me all of your names, starting with you.
I'm Slater.
I'm Screech.
I'm yours.
I'm bummed.
And then I said, I remember Driver's Ed. So between the 2 of us, it was an hour meeting. After a half hour, we had 7 storylines.
I could use a teaching assistant next semester.
Well, I'd love to help you out, sir, but I'll be busy cruising around with a certain young lady.
When Screech fell out of the window and popped back up, my 6-year-old thought that was the greatest thing in the history of the world. And all of a sudden, I realized we could compete with the cartoons because we had the greatest friggin' cartoon of all time, Screech.
And Dustin was an unbelievable physical comedian. When I first met him, I said to him, so who are your favorite comedians? This is like 1989, so I think he's gonna say, Bill Murray or Eddie Murphy. He said Harold Lloyd. I said, Harold Lloyd? He said, yeah, and then Buster Keaton. Now here's a 12-year-old in 1989, and his 2 favorite comics are silent comedians.
I would write on the scripts, more Screech, more Screech. The writers got me for Christmas a stamp. So if it was a scene, I could just stamp onto a scene, more Screech.
Oh, Rick, Lisa-san. Oh.
Why?
So cannot slap me! Oh, Ninja the Rich Tactical.
Tori Spelling, Aaron Spelling's daughter, who later went on to, of course, greater fame on, well, maybe not greater fame, equal fame on 90210, more appearances. Yeah, she came in and played Screech's girlfriend, and she was a very inventive actress. She had that little snort thing. That was all something she came up with.
Hi, Samuel.
I really enjoyed your presentation in biology yesterday.
Oh, well, I've always loved the mating habits of worms. Yeah.
The process for me was different because they wanted to add magic in as much as possible. And so they said, well, what kind of tricks can you do? And I said, well, basically what you want to do is just write any sort of scenario. Max walks up to a table, he has an empty plate, and then suddenly the food appears. So I said, if you just write sort of in those generalities, I'll figure out how to make the magic happen. So that's how it all came together.
Hey, Max, how'd you pick your career?
Oh, well, it was a choice between being a magician or running a restaurant.
Well, how'd you decide?
Oh, well, I was much better at flipping burgers than I was pulling rabbits out of my hat. See what I mean?
After the Friday night taping, we'd finish that show, and then they would give us our scripts for the following week. So I'd get my script, and I'd have to rush right to the Max pages to see what the magic tricks were, so that on Saturday and Sunday, my weekend off, I could be building those things, at least in prototype style, so that by at least Tuesday, I could bring it on set and start to sort of mess with it and work with it.
Maybe it's not ready yet. I think it's done.
And they wrote an episode, I believe it's the Mamas and Papas. The gang goes to the Max in their formal attire, and I make a duck appear out of the menu. Lisa says, what's the most expensive thing on the menu? And I open the menu up and it's empty, and then I fold it into a triangle, and out pops a duck. Now, to do that in front of the live audience and with the kids all around, and when you're working with an animal, you never know what's going to happen. So those kind of tricks were more difficult than, say, buddy bands that would link together or that I would make appear. Those were all kind of sleight of hand things.
It was great to see what happened, because as each got older, each 13 shows, you could do more and more, and you could do more emotional stories. The episode we did with Jesse, perfect example, getting near thinking about college, wanting to have the best grades, wanting to have the best resume with all the activities. She wanted to do everything at once and do everything as best as possible, and she cracked.
Jesse, C.
See? See?
Si, senorita, but this is geometry, not Spanish.
Tom Tenowitz and I wrote Jesse's song with speed, real hard drugs. The network says no way. So we go to a meeting, and there's no way on Saturday morning Jesse's taking speed. So Tom Tenowitz says, how about caffeine pills? I don't even know what caffeine pills are. I just want to get out of the meeting.
Hey, Jesse, these are a lot stronger than coffee. It says right here they may be habit forming.
They're harmless. They sell them over the counter.
So we thought, how about a school play? And then we can get some entertainment value in it, where the girls all could sing, all three could sing, and be part of a musical production.
But we never changed a word. Never. And so the episode of her taking the pills was as if she was taking cocaine or speed or something like that.
Hey, look, Jessie has a problem. I think she's taking drugs. Drugs? Are you crazy? She's been taking caffeine pills to stay up all night cramming. I think she's hooked on them.
The last scene where I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so scared. Zach and her were at an emotional peak with real tears, but I wanted one more take. And everyone in the control room, Bennett Tramer and Tom and the director, no, they can't. I said, they got one more. I know they got one more.
It's okay.
You're right.
It's okay.
Everything will be okay.
Yeah.
I just need one of these.
Pills? You mean you really are taking drugs?
I need them.
And that scene with Jesse and him, where he does Jesse 13 times, the emotional brink of that was beyond anything I'd ever been associated with.
I'm so excited! I'm so excited! I'm so scared!
Jesse.
It was great for me to see Elizabeth get to that point, because I always thought she was a very good actress, the best dramatic actress of the three girls.
But Jessie's song, as flawed as it might have been, because it was caffeine pills, as flawed as it might have been, it had the biggest impact on that Bell generation.
Gotta learn that it's okay if I'm not the best at everything.
Hey, I already learned that.
When?
Every time I get a report card full of C's.
But the show had become so popular, we wanted it was going to be on twice. And how could to have two shows set at the school, one at one time and then an hour later another one. The thinking was we've got to do something to get out of Bayside.
So everyone felt like the first episode should be a traditional Saved by the Bell, but then there had to be something that would keep people there for the second episode. So those became the adventure episodes, and they had to be an adventure. They were not in our sets. So they either were on stage in whole new sets or they were on location. The biggest adventure shows were the beach shows. I found that location in Santa Monica, made that deal with the city of Santa Monica, all the while pretending I kinda knew what I was doing. But I remember pulling up on the first day and just seeing, this swarm of trucks and people and equipment. In a way, it was an adventure for all of us because we'd never left the stage before. We were all kind of in it together. We ended up building like our core group of extras and background players, like the Cabana guys, so that they could be at the beach and then they could be on the stage.
One day, my manager called me up and she goes, "Well, try out for this kid show. It's called Saved by the Bell, and they want to try you out as a punkish kind of guy named Scud." So I went down there, I nailed it, and I got it. She called me up like maybe a day or two later, and she goes, "They love you, but they don't want Scud to be a staple of the show. So they want to try you out as this guy named Ox. Basically, it's 90% yours, Troy. Just go down there and read a couple lines, So I did that, and she said, Robin Lippin is there. She goes, "Just do a couple lines in front of the producer," and I did it. They go, "Oh, you're in," So then I did one show, and then they loved it, and they called me back. So eventually I did one episode as Scud and 8 as Ox.
Buddy, relax. He's smoking a cigarette.
You have the right to punch my face in.
As Saved by the Bell progressed past the basic sets into the sets that would change every week, we may have not existed but for this sort of demise of a soap opera that was shooting on the lot that had in a year and a half, I think, built 70 sets and then went down, and we were able to get use of those sets. So a lot of what we did came from repurposing and rearranging and repainting and changing out windows and stuff like that. But that was a lot of scenery that allowed us to do a lot of sets that we just honestly would not have had the money to do otherwise.
For my favorite scene definitely was the drinking and driving episode, and the script said Ox's living room. So, oh my God, I've got me in my own living room, we're having the toga party. And then that's when I grabbed the lamp. I said, "Hey, let's trash this place." And Mario comes up, "No, Ox, it's your plate, it's your house." Oh yeah, bad idea.
Toga! Hey, let's trash this place! Let's go!
This is your house!
Oh, bad idea!
And the other shows were funny. We had a mall show. It was literally called The Mall. So, I was all in that. And we just blasted the network and had a great time.
And then I remember watching Comic Relief, and I was friendly with Robin Williams. I worked with him on his first record album. Let's do a homeless show ourselves. And I was really inspired by Comic Relief and some of the stories those people told. This image of homeless people as derelicts, unfortunately. And you see in Comic Relief, the guys would lose their jobs, and it was hard to get a new one. The first thing they wanted to know was, where do you live? Well, they're homeless. What's your phone number? They can't afford to pay for their phone. And we put all that stuff into Saved by the Bell. Zach and Screech come across a homeless girl on the wall living with her father.
He's between jobs right now.
I thought you said you weren't hungry.
You know what they say about potato chips.
Oh, sure.
Bet you can't eat just 50.
And the Humanitas Prize is a big deal in Hollywood. Barbara Walters says it's like the Nobel Prize of television. And Home for Christmas was nominated for Humanitas Prize, and that was a real breakthrough for us to be up there with the most socially responsible shows. I think it's going to do shows that most promote human values.
As each year went by in their school years, even though I don't think we flagged each year specifically in any one group of episodes, we wanted it so that you could air them in whatever order you want within reason, so it made sense. So we tried to stay away from the fact that they're in a specific grade at the specific time, except for the last 13.
First of all, what was really wonderful about the cast's age is that they were the age they were playing. I mean, when we did the graduation episode, you know, it was emotional for all the cast because they were graduating. They had lived through their high school years on our set with us.
We had given no thought at that time to whether they will all go to the same college. That's a little big buy, I guess. We focused on the climax of graduation in that school, and you can get a cascade of emotions building from all these kids and their experiences. And Mr. Belding, who we often played as kind of a butt of jokes at times and not taking him seriously at others.
You know what's funny? I thought the last day of high school would be the happiest day of my life. Till I realized what I'd be leaving. My friends.
The shooting of the graduation episode, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I mean, the tears you saw on that stage in the set and that scene were all real from Elizabeth and Tiffany and the rest of the cast and all of us. I mean, it was like proud parents watching your kids graduate. I mean, we had been through their high school with them.
What sum totals it up is that we were all always friends. And we had our growing pains. And it was a good thing, this relationship that we have, individually and collectively as a group.
It was a show people really liked working on. We were a family, you know, so if the show was going to end, we were breaking up a family.
You know, I'm lucky. I have the greatest friends. You know, I may even let Screech do my homework in college.
They wanted to do a new bell, a new class. The evolution was that we're going to take the 3 boys and they're going to be roommates in college.
We're college men now, and everything in this room is going to be to the height of coolness.
Hello!
And the mistake was they were going to be little fish where they'd been big fish in a small pond. In my opinion, after seeing Slater as the state champion wrestler, and now he barely can make the team and doesn't really, that's not what our audience wanted to see.
Making the Hawaii movie was a little bit of a reunion because Tiffany and Elizabeth were back. You know, we sort of reunited original cast. Maybe in the frolic and fun of making that, it came up that, you know, maybe this isn't over.
So what we were going to do was do a road trip with Kelly and Zach getting married as part of the series. But before that could happen, we got canceled. So we then took that premise and we decided we'll do that as a 2-hour movie.
Do you, Zach Morris, and you, Kelly Kapowski, promise to love and to cherish in health and in sickness and death, in death and rigor mortis, and then come back and wander the earth as zombies? Just say I do.
I do.
I don't know if it's like pledging a fraternity or these are the people we went to school with or the fact that a lot of us were pretty young at the time because we all worked really hard and spent a lot of time together and really cared about the show we were making.
I felt a great sense of pride with Saved by the Bell. I had no idea that it would be as successful worldwide as it's become and for so long.
We were a Saturday morning show. Our budget was about $330,000. And I remember when we were shooting an episode, the cast of Friends held out for more money, and they each got $1 million. Our whole show was done for what it cost to get 1/3 of a friend. And yet, in syndication, you know, when we first went to syndication, we were doing as well as the shows we were up against on other local stations, which were like, you know, Friends and Roseanne and Cosby and Family Ties. And that's, to me, one of the great achievements of this show, that this very low-budget show with young actors who were not Bill Cosby or Roseanne Barr did just as well and is remembered just as fondly.
It's amazing. I mean, what show? Not MASH, not All in the Family, not Mary Tyler Moore. No one has a restaurant in 2018, a Saved by the Bell restaurant. We're selling more merchandise, t-shirts, lipstick stuff. I'm always, every other week, I'm approving things.
I don't know what the equation is that has made this show last over others. It's lasted longer than Partridge Family, longer than Brady Bunch. It's still in syndication, it's still running. It's crazy.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, in a tweet, quotes lyrics that I wrote for a song for the Snow White rap. And the notion that someone of that stature, you know, I've seen Hamilton, it's, you know, unbelievable that he even knows Saved by the Bell, let alone is a big fan of it.
And it's only recently that I realized that I wanted to do a show that made a difference. And Saved by the Bell made a difference to hundreds of millions of kids all over the world.